All right. Well, we're out here doing some bedding. We're in bedding area 1. And as you can tell, it's pretty open as far as top cover, which is good. We lease this land, so we can't cut big oaks, big elms, big maples, stuff like that. They're not gonna like that. So what I'm doing is creating more of a cover in the bedding. There is daytime browse, there's pokeweed, there's a lot of hardwood regeneration that's coming up from the stumps of a lot of trees that are already down. Ideally, that's what you'd be cutting. You'd be cutting your oaks and your maples and sweet gums and stuff like that, and you'd hinge cut it so that tree is still living when it falls over, and it's going to start growing branches off the side, and you're going to be at deer level. So you're going to bring all the browse that's up top that they can't reach to deer level, and you're also going to be creating cover that is at deer height. It doesn't matter how high a tree is, how big a tree is, that deer does not feel safe. And you don't want to hinge cut head high. I mean, it's dangerous, and also it's way above a deer. You want basically to cover the deer's sitting, you know, they're actually bedding down, and that's the cover you want to keep. And we have stands out behind the camera. So the main thing is we want to knock some of this down and create little pockets that they can hide behind, but also can help us get in and out without them noticing us. Some of these that I've cut a couple weeks ago have already been browsed on, so it looks like it's helping a little bit. A lot of these trees are just like baby locust trees and stuff, and there's not a ton of browse on them, but we're just going to mainly go for cover. And these bedding areas we do not go in during season. This is the only time. Unless we shoot a deer and it comes in here, I mean, we'll go in here to get it. Other than that, we don't touch these places. This is their safe haven. This is what keeps them from being stressed. And lately we've had so much cold weather. I mean, look at the snow. You know, we've had probably a couple foot of snow. Some of the highs been 6, -2, and it's just been way too cold to work out here. And also, when you hinge cut a tree, you want the sap flowing. You don't want that tree to be frozen solid, because when you hinge cut it, a lot of times it's either going to snap and totally break off, and it's just going to end up dying and just be a deadfall. You want it so that sap's flowing, so when it comes over, it's still getting nutrients from the root system, and it continues to grow, but just horizontally. So I'm going to knock down some of this stuff and kind of explain what I'm doing. And I'm not using a chainsaw, because the trees that we can cut, I don't need a chainsaw. Just using a limb saw. It'd be ideal if you got some bigger trees to cut, to definitely get a chainsaw. It'd be a lot quicker. I mean, if this was my land, I'd be knocking down a lot of these big trees to create a really nice thick pocket, you know. But big thing is, you don't want it so thick they can't move in and out also. A lot of people get confused and they just knock down everything. Well, for a deer to walk through that, it stresses them out. It pushes them one way or the other. And you don't want that. You want them to be easy in and out, provide daytime browse, and cover. And you know, this isn't the best that you can do, but for what we have, this is going to make a big difference. So, hold on. All right, some people might be worried when you talk about cutting down oaks. I'm probably not on the camera. Cutting down oaks. You know, well, acorns. There's only gonna be certain oaks that are gonna produce. And a lot of times, if you got a huge giant oak that produces, the oaks to the side of it aren't going to. And honestly, there's no point to them. So they'd be awesome to hinge cut and create bedding and create hardwood regeneration. And plus, acorns are seasonal. They drop one time out of the year. That's it. And really, they're not that big on a deer's diet. So 70% of a deer's diet comes from forbs, which are basically weeds. They're goldenrod. There's all types of different, I mean, they just, you know, you can see even stuff like this that they've nipped off. And 70% of their diet. A lot of their diet, I think in the 10%, is browse, woody shrubs. They don't eat grass. And acorns and stuff are just, they're just something that's nice if you have them. It's a plus. But if you don't, it's not a big deal. So if you got a lot of oaks that produce them, awesome. If you got some oaks that aren't producing acorns and you think that a hinge cut in a bedding area will help, then go for it. Because security is gonna trump 5 acorns or whatever's gonna fall that season. You know, being safe is the biggest thing a deer wants to do. You know, it don't matter how many food plots you have. You could have 200 acres and 100 acres food plots. If you hunt sloppy and don't give them cover and they don't feel safe, they're gonna leave. You know, so cover and safety trumps food. And like I said, most of the time they're not producing anything, so there's no, if you want to cut them, you know, and sometimes you might want to get a forester involved to select the right trees, but there's different ways to do it. If you're logging, that's completely different than habitat for deer or wildlife. It's not, I mean, you're talking about dollars and boards, you know, and you're talking about how much wood you can get out of something. And you might be taking a perfectly good maple tree and not harvesting it, you know, hinge cutting it, dropping it. Or if you're trying to clear out, say you have a huge oak tree that produces a lot of acorns and it's shaded in, you might want to drop the surrounding trees to let that big oak grow. You know, them are a lot of things that people look past and they get all flustered because they hear somebody talk about chopping an oak tree down. You know, it's a little different than, fuck, I don't know. But you can kind of see what we're doing here is, I'll zoom in a little. And what I'm doing here, so I knocked all these over. Some of them will be browse. Some of them won't. Some of them will just be for cover. But there's a pocket here, and in between it's clear, so they can walk through there and not feel trapped. There's other stuff on the other side I'm going to hinge cut, and I'll kind of show you what's happening. So you're creating these pockets that these deer can actually get down in bed. And it's harder to see out there, but also it's harder to see in, you know. And I got a bunch of back cover. This is the thing, you're trying to make them feel good. You're trying to give them what they want. And all these bedding areas that I'm doing are actually spots on our lease that we know deer already bed. So we're just kind of sprucing up what they already have, where they already like to be. Now, if you got land and you're trying to create bedding, then you are going to have to take into account all the different things, the wind, the time of the year, how you're set up around it. Also, what you're cutting. If there's no browse in here and you're just cutting a bunch of junk trees, locust trees that all they are is thorns, then you're probably going to have a hard time to keep them deer in there. I think deer feed 5 times a day, and 3 of the times are in bedding. And they'll walk around here and they'll pluck little buds off and different things, and they'll just browse. They won't travel much further out of here. Now this area is awesome because right now the camera's facing basically north. There's a huge ridge. It's not a ridge, I lied about that. It's a good hill. So a south wind, there's a hill. So they get a lot of wind protection from your south, which is your predominant wind. Southwest is most of the time during hunting season, still protected. West, there's a huge hill running that way, so west is protected. And that hill cuts all the way back down and heads east. So even a north is pretty decent. A northwest, you're protected. This is a area that basically all the winds you're gonna hunt during the season, they can get out of it, you know? And there's a lot of rumors of, oh, deer bed on, you know, the south hillside for sun, and then it comes down to deer are trying to stay out of the wind. They can't hear as well, they can't smell as well, and with a lot of stuff moving, leaves blowing, weeds wiggling, they can't see as well. And when they get down here and get out of that wind, it makes it so much better for them. So this area is really great all season. We always have deer coming in and out of here. And this is just gonna kick it up a notch. I think we're pretty good on this side. I'll bring the camera by and kind of show what we're doing. And then we're gonna work down to the northwest side a little bit. So what you're seeing here is a lot of things that I hinge cut. And then also behind it are some hinge cuts I've made. And it creates a nice little pocket and a nice little runway going down through here that these deer can still move freely and not feel trapped. All right, we're in the northwest side of this bedding we're working on. We came to your guys' left. All of them trees we just knocked down are over there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut some trees to create a path through here, and then I'm gonna start laying these down so they can walk. There's a hill behind us. They can walk down this hill, through there and out, or in and through and up. Like I said, you just don't want to trap them. Alright, so we basically got that cleared out where they can travel past all that. Pretty good cover. There's so much right there that there's not a lot of trees that you got to cut down. I'm going to cut this little group down right in front of me. I'll probably push them just forward, and that'll be it for this bedding, and we'll start on bedding 2. Alright, well, now that we've kind of showed you what we've done to that bedding area, I guess it's easier just to explain how we are going to hunt it. So the stands right now,
with the red dots will be all our stands that we'll be using for a northwest wind. The one stand to the top right hand side with the green, that's best with a southeast wind. All the white would be how these deer are going to get in and out of the bedding area. And the blue, theoretically, is going to be how bucks are going to run that area to scent check if there's does bedding in there and if they're coming into heat. So the top blue, any southerly wind, they'll be cutting right behind that bedding area to see if they can smell any does that are hot. And then the bottom will be anything with a north wind or a northwest wind, which is perfect for the red stands.